Combat Sports Report continues. I am Gabriel Morency on the SportsGrid Radio and Television Network. We've got a ton of big fights coming up in every different company, so to speak. We got some Monster BKFC cards coming up. PFL's got the Road to Dubai and the Champion Series. UFC coming to Vancouver, which we're looking forward to. We're going to be in attendance October the 18th, UFC in Vancouver. So a lot of cool stuff to break down. There's talk about the White House card, the movie, the Smashing Machine movie coming out. So it's actually an exciting time right now in combat sports. And we've got a pretty cool card, actually, this Saturday night in Perth, Australia. Let's bring in Tom Zino right now from nukethehouse.com to help us break it down. Tom, welcome to the Combat Sports Report. Thanks a lot for joining us. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
All right, so let's get right down to business and talk about a man that coulda, shoulda, woulda in Dominic Reyes. It's amazing to me, Tom, when I look up, I'm like, that fight against Jon Jones feels like it was like 10 years ago or something like that, doesn't it? But it really wasn't that long ago. It was 2020, guys, and I know there's a short attention span in combat sports, but Dominic Reyes kind of beat Jon Jones. Many people thought he did beat Jon Jones, but Jon Jones got the decision, and Jon Jones's life continued. Meanwhile, Reyes came close, then went on a 3-fight losing streak after he lost to Jon Jones, all kinds of injury problems, and it kind of looked like he was done, but now he's rattled off 3 wins in a row. What are your thoughts on Dominic Reyes and where he's at in his career right now?
Well, first thing, I kind of wish he did get that decision over Jon Jones, because we wouldn't have all these issues with the heavyweight division right now had Jon Jones lost that fight. But, Reyes, man, I think he could be back. It's been 3 years since he's been knocked out. Obviously, he went on that run where it seemed like he couldn't take a punch. But, he's rattled off 3 wins. He's still very athletic. He's still got power. This is a good test right here. Oberg has power. Oberg could be a guy that could put him out. But if Reyes is fully back and has confidence, I mean, as a pretty sizable underdog, I think Reyes is live in this spot.
It does feel high, doesn't it? It's one of these deals. So Oberg's in the minus 250 range, guys, and I don't think a lot of people know too much about Oberg, right? A New Zealand fighter, reality TV star, so he's very popular in that side of the world, but fight fans don't really know too much about him, but they know enough to know that he's won 8 fights in a row. I mean, the guy lost his UFC debut, has rattled off Kickboxer, rattled off all these wins, and hasn't beaten tomato cans either, Tom, along the way. Like, that's the whole thing with this, isn't it? It's like, well, Reyes has fought in everybody. Reyes has that sort of, Reyes has the pedigree, and, he's been in big fights before. Yet you can't dismiss the guys that Oberg has actually destroyed to get here.
Yeah, I mean, coming off a win over Jan Blachowicz, who's, obviously held the title, beat Reyes for the belt after Jon Jones vacated. Yeah, I mean, the resume is pretty solid. I think at this point, if Reyes is at his best, I think this may be the best challenge for him. But, Oberg's done good work. He's trained with Izzy all those years. He's a very good kickboxer. He's shown to be competent in the grappling department. He's a pretty well-rounded fighter. So, I mean, this is a good matchup. And it really, to me, it just comes down to if Reyes can take the punches. And it's not like Oberg has just been knocking everybody out. I mean, he's got the power. He definitely has the power to knock out Reyes, but he's not knocking everybody out along the run. He's had some decisions. He's had some iffy fights along the way too. But yeah, I mean, it's a great matchup. I think it's going to be a fun fight. 5 rounds.
No, the matchmaking is cool here. Yeah, and that's the thing. You got to figure there's going to be that there's no one's getting knocked out in the first round of this fight. Like, I like the over. One thing with, as Tom said, with Oberg, he's a kickboxer, but he's patient. Like, he's not reckless, which makes him tough to beat, actually, right? Like, he's got a pretty high fight IQ. Yeah. If you'll notice, Tom, the different mediums. We always talk, the different fighters about, like, I was a wrestler. I was, karate. I was in a Muay Thai, like all the different forms, and then they get to combat sport. But you'll notice kickboxers transition pretty nicely into MMA, right? We've seen a lot of success with kickboxers. It's a similar type of mindset, but their kicks and their defensive game is just good. Like, we've seen a lot of kickboxers come in with not a lot of MMA experience and be good at it.
Yeah. Alex Pereira, for one. I mean, Izzy, actually, too.
Izzy, that's what I'm thinking. Like you just said, he trains with Izzy. I thought of Pereira and these guys. There's been other ones along the way, but, like, kickboxing is a great tool to have coming into MMA.
Yeah, they have great footwork. They have great hips. I mean, to be a good kickboxer, you have to have good hips. And to defend a takedown, you have to have good hips. You have to be able to move. Yeah. So it does translate pretty well. And, these guys, they get into MMA camps, and, grappling is not something you can just pick up overnight. But if you work on it, and you've been working on it for years, it is something that you can be defensively sound in. I think for kickboxers, if they're just defensively sound, that's where you see those guys that have success. You see kickboxers come in, and like Blood Diamond, another Izzy teammate, he had zero takedown defense, zero anything. He was just a kickboxer, and it didn't work. But the guys that actually put the time in on the mat, they go pretty far because they're already athletic, they're already skilled, and they're tough to get in on because they control the distance.
Exactly. And, I think it gets in the opponent's head a little bit too. They've seen the dudes, like, if they know that they've seen this guy's kickboxing highlight reels, it's scary. You want to go in and shoot for a takedown, but you're worried about getting kicked in the head.
Knees up the middle too. There's a lot of risk.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this, actually, about takedown defense, because this is exactly this fight. Not a glamour fight, and I know it's not on your best bets list, and we'll get Tom's best bets for the fights that catch his eye here, but Jake Matthews. So there's a lot of local fighters, guys. You got Kiwis and Australians on this card. It's in Perth. Jake Matthews, an Australian, and kind of one of the rare Australians, was kind of a wrestler, right? I mean, wrestling's more the Eastern Europe and the American thing, but Jake liked the takedowns early in his career. Blonde kid, had the looks. Some people thought could be sort of a star, right? The UFC tried to hype him up. Never turned into a star, but he's a serviceable fighter. But he's not that superstar. I wonder about the number here and how big of a favorite he is against a guy like Neil Magny. And I'm looking at Neil Magny here, and we've had Neil on the show a lot over the years. I know him, etc. So he's 5-5 in his last 10 fights, Tom. Do you know he's been an underdog in 8 of the 10 fights?
Yeah.
He's been an underdog, a plus 165 or higher in 8 of the 10 fights. The 2 fights that Neil Magny was a favorite, he was a minus 125 favorite, and he was a minus 138 favorite. He's 5-5 in his last 10 fights. Do the math, guys. Neil Magny is a profitable fighter, bro. He's always an underdog, Tom, and he wins half the time.
Yeah. And it feels like the bigger the underdog he is, that's when you want to bet on.
When he shows up.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? I get it, Matthew's a favorite, but I was surprised. We got 30 seconds before the break. What do you think of that? Is Magny worth a shot as a live dog, in your opinion?
Yeah, honestly, I think he is. And, for the reason you said, he's been the underdog many times. And this is a spot where, Matthews to me is not a absolute killer. I think Neil Magny hangs around in this one. I like to kind of live bet on Magny here after round 1, see where we're at.
Yeah, one thing with Neil Magny, too, this fight is, bet the over of this fight, but Magny's got a good takedown defense. And Magny's just one of these scrappy dudes. He's going to be in the fight. He might get screwed by the local crowd / decision, but he's going to be in this fight, guys. I guarantee it. Combat Sports Report continues. Bring it. Combat Sports Report continues. I am Gabriel Morency. We appreciate you tuning in to the SportsGrid Radio and or television network, our various platforms, smart TVs and apps and everything else in between. We're breaking it down with Tom Zino right now. UFC goes to Australia this weekend, Perth. We'll get Tom's best bets. There's a fight I want to ask him about, and then there's a couple of fights that I know we're both very interested in. But Jimmy Crute, very rare, draws happen, but they're not the norm, right? And this guy's got two draws. It's like his last 4 fights, which is very strange. And, he's 0-3-2. 0-3-2. And, he's had 2 draws in the last 5 fights, and he hasn't won. But he's fighting Urslan here. This number isn't crazy, like in the minus 170, minus 175 range. And Tom, they set things up like they want certain people to win, or they'll throw a guy a bone, right? You're fighting at home. We're giving you a guy you can beat. You better be able to beat him. To me, this is this Crute fight. Like, they're basically saying, all right, Jimmy, you've had a lot of bad luck. You've had the draws. This is a fight you better win. And I think he does.
Yeah, I think he should. He is the better overall fighter. He's got a well-rounded game. He's a good striker. He has the grappling. He has submission upside. Urslan is not a guy that I'm too high on, but one thing I will say, the thing that worries me about Crute is the cardio. The reason why he has draws is because, sometimes he gets smashed and then, comes back, but then other times he's doing the smashing and then he's fading as fights go long. This is another fight that I was looking at in terms of betting live. I think Crute should win this one, but I kind of want to see what the cardio looks like, going into the second round and as this fight goes long. Because Urslan's a guy, he's fought 25 rounds or 25 minutes on the regional scene. He's gone 3 rounds. He's a guy that can survive. He can make fights interesting. So I do think he can, like I said, he can make it interesting. But Jimmy Crute, the hometown guy, you think the judge is probably going to favor him. The crowd's going to be on his side. As long as the cardio doesn't fall off all the way, I think Crute should be fine. And again, he's got finishing upside. He's got submission upside. But I do worry a little bit about the cardio, so I kind of want to see how this fight plays out, in the live betting market. But, I feel like Crute should win this one. It's tailor-made for him. Obviously, hometown fight. You want to get him a win. The UFC does this kind of stuff all the time. But the cardio is always a question mark with him. The fight IQ always scares me a little bit. So I'm going to be looking at this one from the live betting perspective.
And I don't want to sound repetitive, but I think there's going to be a lot of overs. There's a lot of guys with not a ton of power on this card. There's a lot of tough dudes. There's seemingly a lot of fights that are built to go the distance. They'll be entertaining. They're going to scrap. But I get the feeling there's going to be a lot of overs on this card. So Mousasi and Thickenese here. A lot of people thought Mousasi lost the fight on the Contender Series, right? Mm-hmm. And then he debuts. He's like a minus 500 favorite, and he loses, right? So he's one of these dudes that, is it a KO wizard? Dude, have you seen the people that he KO'd in the African fight circuit? It was legit tomato cans. So, yep. There's, he was huffed and puffed up because of his record and stuff like that, and they fast-tracked him. Thickenese has 1 fight in the UFC, but he took it on 1 week's notice against Taporia's brother. And it was a pretty, it was an honest showing. He looked pretty good on short notice there. Do you think we have a live dog with Thickenese in this fight?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I actually was on him in that Topuria fight. I thought it was going to be a good fight. Both guys making their debut. I don't care how good a fighter is. When they're making their debut, things don't always go the way you want them to. Thickness trains with Volk. Volk's got basically 2 gyms. He's got City Kickboxing, and then he's got the other gym that's closer to his hometown. So he's trained with Volk a lot, the champ at 145. He's got a pretty high fight IQ. He's tough as nails. And in this matchup, I'm not impressed with what I've seen from what's his name?
Mousasi,
yes. I'm not impressed with what I've seen. Yes, he's got some power. He came in, UFC debut, got dropped, got submitted, pretty easy. So I'm not impressed with him. I don't think he should be favored in this fight. I'll take thickness all day. I think he's got the fight IQ. I think he's tough. I think he comes from a good gym. He trains with good guys. And I think he's a good dog here.
What are a couple of other fights you're looking at on this card to lay it down on?
So I like Michelle Madigu. She's coming over from PFL. She's got very, very strong wrestling. She comes from American Top Team. She's another local fighter. The wrestling is going to play a pretty big factor in this one. The real question mark coming into this one is her making 135. She's always fought at 45. She's fought up as high as 170 in her amateur career. So she's a big girl coming down. And Carolina is a fighter who has always fought at 125. So she's coming up to 35. So you're going to have I'd say probably a 15 to 20 pound weight difference on fight night, and a grappler against a mostly kickboxer. I know it's the debut for Michelle, but with the wrestling background, she's fought in the PFL. The size difference, I think, is going to be substantial. So I think she's gonna kind of just ragdoll her. And I don't like to be overly confident on debuting fighters, but I just feel like with the wrestling, the size, everything, pretty good upside here. And if, from a DFS perspective, if you're playing, DraftKings or FanDuel, the takedowns are going to be there. The grappling is going to be there. I think it's a good look for her.
All right, and I know you want a parlay. You got thinking about a parlay. Hang in here. We got a little mini segment on the other side, and we'll wrap up with Tom with some of his best bets. We'll get into the Bedoya fight. I've got some best bets for you as well. We've been on a roll on this show, actually. Just, a lot of underdogs have been cashing in these main events, and we've been on the right side of them. We'll see what happens. Actually, we were speaking of the Reyes earlier in the Oberg fight, but we'll wrap up with Tom Zino on the other side. Combat Sports Report continues. Combat Sports Report continues. I am Gabriel Morency. Let's do this. We're breaking down UFC Fight Night in Perth. Interesting card, and I think we could have a profitable card as well. There's, looks like there's a lot of evenly matched fights. There seems to be a lot of live underdogs on this card, and a couple of favorites that aren't too heavily favored to win that we like. We're breaking it down with Tom Zino right now from nukethehouse.com. So, Tom, continue on. You were talking about you're talking about Monty, but we were talking about you want to put her in a parlay, and we got to get to the Bedoya and the Malarkey fight as well. But we'll continue on the Michelle fight and then the parlay you want to play.
Yeah. So the parlay is now I'm blanking on what the parlay was.
With Sterling.
Yes, Navajo Sterling. Yes, Navajo Sterling with Montague. It was plus 103. And basically with Sterling, it's another guy, city kickboxing guy. He's, he hasn't been overly impressive, but his opponent has basically just taken a beating in all of his fights. He, fought to a no contest in his last fight against Paul Craig. Paul Craig landed an up kick that wasn't super big, but he kind of flopped and played it off. And I think he might have knocked himself out, falling back to the canvas, and then he had this whole weird thing. I just think Navajo Sterling is just the overall better fighter. He hasn't shown the killer instinct quite yet in the UFC, but I think he wins this fight, and I think he puts a pretty good beating on him. And with Montague, like I said, I feel like she's, as long as she makes the weight okay. And even if she misses, like as long as the fight goes on, I feel like she's going to have a pretty sizable advantage.
I hate to say it, but it's kind of better if the fighter you bet on misses weight because we're not losing. Thing, yeah. We're not losing the 10% or whatever. We're not losing a 25% share, whatever it is in a state. And they always have an advantage. They don't care. It's almost a trick. Like, whatever. I'll miss weight. I'll win, and I'll climb in. You get the title shot after. We've seen it happen in the past. But what I like about your plays is they're all like plus money. The parlay ends up being plus money. Thick and Ease is plus money. Bedoya and Malarkey, you're going to go under the number here, under 2.5?
Yes. Yeah, and the reason for that is, honestly, I think Bedoya catches the chin. Malarkey's been knocked out 6 times. He's been knocked out a lot recently. I think he's been dropped 6 times in his last 7 fights. I just don't think the chin's there. But I also think there's a world where he could find a submission as well. So I feel like just taking the under. I'm siding with Bedoya. I think Bedoya wins, and I think he probably wins by knockout. I just think Malarkey's chin is gone. Malarkey's a guy that, he's had some good wins in the UFC. He's had some great fights. He's been exciting to watch. But once that chin starts to go, it starts to go. And Bedoya's a guy, he's 0-3 in the UFC, but 2 of his 3 fights were up at 170. And then the other fight he fought was at 55. But it was against a guy that's 6'3", much bigger size advantage. Malarkey's got a bit of a size advantage here, but Bedoya, he's shown to be a gamer, and I question that Malarkey chin, and I think he could put him out.
We got about a minute here. So anything else? Any other loose ends? Any other fights, sides, props you want to share with us, or anything else caught your eye?
Yeah, I mean, I like Cam Roshan. He's fighting Petrosky, who's a guy that's known for fading in fights. Petrosky's definitely got the grappling upside, and we've seen Rouston on the Contender Series. His first time got taken down 10 times against Torrance Finney, but Torrance Finney that's what he does. He's basically a fire hydrant. He can take you down, but he showed a good ability to get up, and when he got to the feet, he was willing to strike. And I think Petrosky in this fight, kind of taking it on short notice, halfway across the world. I don't like Petrosky's cardio. I think, after the first round, he might slow, and this fight gets interesting after that.
Tom, great stuff. NukeTheHouse.com, great website. We know we've had quite a few people on from the site over the years, so continued success at the site, and thanks for joining us. We'll definitely do it again. Thanks, Tom.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
There's Tom Zino with us. NukeTheHouse.com. Good breakdowns of this card. UFC going to Perth, Australia. And as we stated, I think there's some good betting opportunities here. And I think there's going to be a lot of fights that go the distance. And the judges are going to be in play. And anytime judges are in play, suddenly underdogs are in play as well. The Combat Sports Report on the SportsGrid Radio and Television Network continues. Combat Sports Report continues, and you knew we weren't going to go a show without talking some BKFC, right? Let's do this thing. We had Chris Camozzi on a couple of weeks ago, and of course, BKFC goes everywhere. That's what's super cool about it, man. They're in Edmonton, they're in Florida, they're in Eastern Europe, right? They're Italy, all over the place, which is super cool. And, of course, we were talking about the Italian card. We're now joined by a former interim champion, actually, who's going to be on this card. Francisco Richie steps up and in and joins us on the Combat Sports Report. Francisco, thanks a lot for taking the time to be with us, man. How you doing today?
Good, man. Thank you guys for having me.
So, as an Italian-American, how stoked are you to be fighting in Italy, man? It's got to be almost like dreams come true type of stuff.
I can't wait, man. I was born there. I've been back almost every year. Try to be back at least almost every year. Getting married there in May, so I mean, I'm Italian. You know, I've got my American citizenship, but I also have my Italian citizenship. But speak the language fluently. Still very close to my people over there, so I can't wait. I mean, it was seems like it was just yesterday that I was a kid walking around the center of Rome with my mom, holding hands and asking her questions about the Coliseum, and now I get to fight right down the street.
Well, talk to me about that. About the Coliseum there. About the fighting spirit of the Italian. Like, do you feel that? Like, what's it like being Italian and like knowing, the gladiators and the Coliseum is there? Like, do you feel that in your blood?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're very passionate people. I mean, hell, nowadays you can go to a soccer stadium and feel the passion. But I feel Italians in general are just very, very passionate people, and I don't think that we have anybody or haven't had anybody since Marciano or since, even them, they were Italian American, but born in the States. But I don't think that we've had anybody in a really long time that's an actual Italian fighter that could carry the flag, and BKFC, it's a new sport in a way, I guess, but bare knuckle's been going on for forever. I mean, they were having bare knuckle fights in the Coliseum back then. They were having just about any kind of warfare you could possibly have. So it's nice to be able to carry the country, or to carry the my country's flag, and at least make them proud. There's a lot of people that fight for BKFC and they have their country's flag on the back, but they don't necessarily win, or they don't. I mean, at the end of the day, we're representatives. I don't feel like some people represent their nations the proper way, and I think that I think that I do. I'm definitely trying to.
So this is a fight that they're all personal, right? Every fighter, the next fight in every fighter's life is their biggest fight of their life, but this sounds like real personal to you, that like you're not losing. You just can't lose in Italy, right? Like you're taking this. Yeah. You're representing yourself. You're representing America, but you're taking this dead serious. You do not want to lose on Italian soil.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I tell myself before every fight, when you walk out there, like, hey, this guy's probably going to kill you. And in the back of my mind, the only thing that I have is I'm going to take him with me if he does. And it's always the same. Every fight, which unfortunately in the past I've overlooked fights, and I've definitely paid the price for it. The Noah Cutter fight, I thought that was going to be a cakewalk, and I feel like you can never not respect somebody that's across the way from you, that's trained for the last 6, 7, 8, 10 weeks to try to kill you. So this fight especially, it's got significant importance, because imagine going over there, imagine traveling back to Italy, having my friends that I've grew up with since I was a kid, that we speak all the time. Imagine them having come see me fight and then me losing on home soil. I mean, that's just going to be extremely embarrassing, not to mention the fact detrimental.
Now, the fight game is always a game of chance, but you've won 3 fights in a row right now, and that's not by accident. So you found some consistency, and you just I was going to ask you, what is it that you found right now, the recipe for success? But you just telling me, you've taken some people maybe for granted in the past. Have you learned? Has that been a big change for you, that anybody can F you up in this business? Like, what has been the difference for you that you found on this win streak right now?
Focusing on myself. I mean, I didn't take Mundell lightly at all. I knew that he was a very tough guy, and I trained my ass off for that fight. I was just there's a lot of outside factors. I almost put a little bit too much trust in myself and in my body, especially at that time. So what I'm doing now that's different is I'm focusing on the mistakes that I'm making. I couldn't give a sorry, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to curse or not, but I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less who I'm fighting. I don't want to look bad. I mean, I'll give you an example. I don't think I looked impressive in my last fight at all, the one against Dallas Davison. I don't like the way I looked at all. I feel like my feet felt very heavy, looked very heavy. I don't think that I was standing sideways enough. I think I made a lot of mistakes in that fight. And that to me stings. Like you seeing what you've done in the gym, what you've trained for, and then seeing you go out there, fight, and not look anything like you did in the gym. That to me is a slap in the face, not just for me. I mean, obviously I get embarrassed, but it's also against my team, my coaches, my corners, the training partners. I mean, sometimes I'm in there and I'm with a training partner, and then we may hurt each other. And if you end up hurting somebody and then you go out there and you fight like it's a disservice to them because they put in the blood, sweat, and tears to help you get ready for a fight, and then you go out there and then you make a mistake or you don't look nearly as impressive. You know, I at least I value that even beyond. I'm not saying that I would rather lose and look impressive, of course not. But to me, it's not just about winning. You got to look dominant, and in BKFC, I don't think that there's any fighter there that has learned everything they can possibly learn and is good. You know, nobody could just get off the couch, run a couple miles and be in shape for a BKFC fight. You're always training to get better. So I just started doing that, instead of thinking that I'm Billy Badass and I could carry the world on my shoulders. And even if I'm up or have an ACL injury, I can win a fight. And now instead, what I started doing is I started taking a little bit more time towards myself. Number one, in fixing mistakes, and two, also in just taking care of my body, because we are getting older. I mean, regardless of the fact, I don't care if you're in your 20s, as you age, your body starts to break down more and more. You start to feel the miles that you've made in sparring and fights, lifting weights, doing strength and conditioning. Your body starts to break down little by little, and you have to, take special care of it. It's almost like racing. You got to take care of your car. You got to sit there, gap the plugs, set the valve lash, rebuild the motor every once in a while to make sure that you can perform every race. It's not a matter of just like, oh, you know what? I'm used to this racetrack. I can just jump in the driver's seat and win. You also got to take care of the vehicle that's going to take you there. And for us fighters, it's our body.
And how much, and obviously a massive key of this sport is not taking damage as well, right? You've had a reputation. You were kind of known as, man, this guy's entertaining as hell. He's just going to walk forward and bang, bang, bang. Is this another thing, too, with your streak? Limit the damage. Don't eat punches you don't have to prove. Like, you don't have to prove that you're Johnny, like you said, Johnny Tough Guy all the time, right? And I can eat this, I can eat that. How critical is it to sometimes check your ego and say, you know what, it's better to actually have some head movement and not eat this shot?
Absolutely. And that's definitely something that I added to my game. I mean, I switched gyms after the Lozano fight. I'm with a team now that I feel like suits me a little bit better. A boxing team, at least, because I'm always going to be with freedom fighters. But Lorenzo Medina, which is my boxing coach, he prides himself on head movement. I mean, he's smaller than a lot of the guys that he fights. So he needs to kind of move his head, slip, and he needs to rely on his footwork and his movement to get inside and land big shots on his opponents, because he's fighting at heavyweight and he's 6 feet tall. A lot of the guys that he's fighting are 6'6", 6'8", 6'10". So I'm trying to incorporate a lot of what I learned from him to not just move your head. Anybody could move their head. But what's up?
No, go on, Francisco. We just got a piece. So we got 1 minute. So we got 1 minute to wrap it up here.
Oh, no worries. But yeah, no, all I was saying was anybody can move their head, but being able to move your head efficiently and being in a spot where you could still counter efficiently after you move, that's more important. So
when do you? How long? We got about 45 seconds. How long before the fight are you going to arrive in Italy?
A week before. I think I'm going to get there a week to 10 days before the fight. Actually, we're doing the tickets now. We're trying to figure out. Yeah.
And you're already there, too. You've been there so many times. I think it's a little bit, it's going to help you. You like the food. You know the time. You know what the air feels like. Isn't that a big difference for a fighter?
Absolutely. Way better for us than the air that we have here. Less polluted also.
Cleaner air. Francisco, we wish you the best of luck, man. Let's do it again when you get back. Thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you.
Combat Sports Report continues on the SportsGrid Radio and Television Network, and shout out to all of our affiliates, networks, platforms, apps, and everything else in between. I wanted to talk about a movie, which I don't often do on these shows because, quite frankly, there aren't any good movies to ever talk about. And, people don't go to the theaters nearly as much as they used to. These, and even the good movies, they're on demand, and you can watch them in your house, and you don't even have to go to the theater. You can pay you can pay bigger money and watch from your home to begin with. And oftentimes you'll see sort of like a trailer for a movie, and you're like, you know what, that sort of looks cool, and that could be all right. and then you kind of know that it isn't, right? Like Spinal Tap. I love the first Spinal Tap movie. One of the greatest movies ever. I can tell that Spinal Tap 2 sucks. I don't even have to see it to know it's not very good. And why do I know that? There's no viral clips. The trailer sucked. If there's not even one funny thing in there, you know what I mean? There's nothing to it. And I'm not saying that, I'm going to give it a chance to see the movie. But there's a movie about Mark Kerr, the Smashing Machine. Now, they've done a pretty good job promoting it, so you've probably seen it or heard about it now. But it's coming out next week. So it starts October the 2nd in North America. It's played in Europe at the film festivals and stuff like that. It played, I believe, the Toronto Film Festival as well. So people have seen the movie, but the public has not seen the movie yet. So the movie The Smashing Machine, a movie about former NCAA wrestling champion Mark Kerr. Now, Mark Kerr, one of the greatest NCAA wrestlers ever. He was like rivals with Kurt Angle. He lost to Kurt Angle to go to the Olympics type stuff, right? So fascinating story. So it's a movie, The Smashing Machine, about, that was him, about his life. And, he's NCAA champion, fought in the early days of the UFC, like, UFC 14 type stuff when it was, Wild West, right? So he's a 2-time heavyweight tournament champion. They used to have multiple fights in one night. So he did it twice. Like, basically like the most badass guy in the world type of deal at the time. Like, Mark Kerr, one of the most feared dudes like ever. He went to Japan and he fought in Pride, and Pride was crazy, right? Headbutts, and you could stomp on people's heads. And they changed the rules because of this guy, because he was so vicious and just destroying people like violently, right? But the thing is, he didn't like it, right? It's sort of like a lot of hockey fighters. Like, a lot of hockey enforcers, they look super tough and they're fighting and, they play hockey and they fight all the time. They don't like it, right? They're in their hotel rooms and they're scared of the fight and they don't want to fight the other guy, but they know they don't have a choice to do it. So they end up taking pills. They end up doing cocaine. They end up drinking in their hotel room. And I don't want to fight, but it's the only way I stay in the NHL, so I don't have a choice. And Kerr sort of had a little bit, he was big, menacing, fear guy, but he didn't want to get kicked in the head. Like, he didn't, you know what I mean? Like, so he had like serious substance abuse issues in his life. And so for the record, The Rock is playing him. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, plays Mark Kerr. Now, you look at the transformation. He looks like him. And The Rock is in super shape. He got in the shape like, you know what I mean? He looks the part. I saw Matt Serra, former UFC champion. I saw Matt Serra talking about the movie. He saw it, and he said the fight scenes are immaculate. He said it's so realistic, you think you're watching the Pride fights. Like, they took the footage from the Pride fights and they redid it point blank, except with real fighters. And The Rock got messed up for real. So, like, The Rock is a big enough dude and a tough enough dude, and he also knows that authenticity will be better for it. So he basically told them, like, yeah, let's fight for real here. Like, let's bring it. I think he got his ribs broken. Like, Ryan Bader is one of the fighters in the movie. Ryan Bader's a real fighter. Boss Rutan's in the movie. Boss Rutan's a real fighter, right? Boss Rutan plays himself from the Pride days. Ryan Bader plays a fighter. Alexander Usyk is in the movie. So they have a lot of real fighters like that are playing fighters in the movie, which is super cool. And like, the fight scenes are supposed to, like, I haven't seen them. I've seen the clips only, but like they're saying that it's like, even like the way that they shot it with like the film, that it made it look like you almost think it's real. Like, you're like, is this the real Pride thing, or is it like it's that sort of accurate? Like, fighters that were there said, yeah, man, like, they nailed it. Like, they really nailed it. From an acting perspective, The Rock supposedly has done a great job. They've been pushing Oscar and stuff, but he's not going to win an Oscar. But Emily Blunt, who I don't know. I know who Emily Blunt is, but I'm not like, oh, Emily Blunt, yeah, she did this and that and this. Like, but Emily Blunt supposedly is like the star. Like, she's the one. Like, she's getting awards early, like she could get nominated for a bunch of stuff. Like, it's that good of a movie, supposedly. I'm looking forward to going to see it. Ryan Bader plays Mark Coleman, right? So, like, really, really cool stuff. Like I said, the premise of this is great. The cast that they have is great. Like I said, they've got real MMA fighters. They got heavyweight boxing champions. They've got, The Rock. There's authenticity to it. And I look forward to seeing it. So I'll give you my review, my honest review. If it sucks, I'll tell you it sucks. If it's great, I'll tell you it was great. But it starts Thursday, October the 2nd. We're not going to be able to go on the opening night, obviously, but you got football games on and the weekend and fights and all that. So it's one of these deals. Like, we always say, all right, we're going to go see this movie. And it's like, I don't have the time. But we'll find the time. We'll find a couple hours. I got a theater near my house. We'll find the time, and we're definitely going to check this out. I generally look forward to seeing this movie. And like I said, a lot of fight movies suck. Let's call it out for what it is. A lot of sports movies suck. There's really not that many good sports movies, and there's really not that many good fight movies, right? So now you got a sports movie. You got this, it's a fight movie. And obviously there's going to be the human element to it, their marriage and their marital problems and all that type of stuff. But I really do look forward to seeing this movie, The Smashing Machine. So you know what? I'm not going to be able to get The Rock on, but I used to be buddies with Ryan Bader. I've been through so many cell phones since the old days, but I could track down Ryan Bader. We can get Bader on the show. I'm going to try to do this and talk to him about the movie. Combat Sports Report continues. Time to wrap up the Combat Sports Report, although I should really have called it, I think we did the Italian Power Hour today. Francisco Richie, Zaffino, and all Italians think I'm Italian. Hey, Morency, but I'm actually not. But Italians always do think I am Italian. But, yeah, thanks to Francisco Richie for joining us on the program, and really enjoyed the conversation. Man, these BKFC guys are intense dudes. Like, they're just super intense dudes, but I liked his honesty about, I like what he said about, growing up and walking around the Coliseum, man, and now I'm fighting there. I'm not at the Coliseum, but you got to think about that fighting spirit. And I liked his honesty about how he just can't lose. Like, as an Italian going to Italy to fight, like, he can't lose this fight. He's going to put a lot, you got to be careful not to put too much pressure on yourself in a situation like that. That's why oftentimes home, like, it's not home field, man. And home field doesn't even mean anything in sports anymore. But, like, people often, like, fall for this. Oh, he's fighting at home. And fighting at home can be a bad thing. I'll put it this way. Dustin Poirier just fought at home, right, in New Orleans. It was his last fight. He lost. Right? Fighting at home is not for everybody. Right? Fighting at home, man, suddenly all your friends are there. Suddenly they're all asking you for tickets. And, you're training. You're at home. So you're not going somewhere else to train. Like, there's a lot of different things that come into play sometimes when you're fighting at home that actually backfires. So as always, we'll give our best bets for UFC Perth on Saturday on X, our final thoughts, and all that. But we brought up Neil Magny, and I was really fascinated by that Neil Magny is 5-5 in his last 10 fights. That would get a lot of people cut, right, in the UFC. But Neil Magny's a UFC lifer. Neil Magny will show up on 2 days' notice. Neil Magny will fight anybody. Like, Magny knows he's not ever going to be a champion. So he's a let's call it up for what it is. He's a gatekeeper, right? He's a gatekeeper. He's that guy that, he's good. He's been around. Let's see if this kid can, let's see what the kid can do against him, right? And Jake Matthews isn't that kid anymore, right? They're both sort of, they are who they are in their careers right now. But I don't understand why Jake Matthews is this heavily of a favorite against Magny. Magny's takedown defense is good, right? He knows that people are going to try to take him down. His takedown defense has gotten really better and stronger over the years. You know, his hip movement, his angles, because Magny's not the biggest dude. He's wiry, right? He's kind of skinny. He's a wiry dude. But he's very good at that sort of side stuff. And, you know, he sort of side punches you and a little elbow, spinning elbow. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just a crafty fighter. So he can tag Matthews in this fight. Matthews is probably going to get the hometown call, right? It's the Australian. He's fighting at home. And Matthews, if he scores a couple of takedowns and he stays on top of them, it could, you know what I mean? It could, like, sway the judges. But to me, Matthews should not be this big of a favorite. We're talking about a minus 450 favorite. It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I'll tell you right now, this fight is going over the number. Not every book has the totals out as of us talking to you right now. But the fight's going to go over the number. It's going to go the distance. And it's like sports, guys. Right? Not point spread sports, but like, you know, Major League Baseball, right? So you get these teams like, they're plus 160, they're plus 140, whatnot, underdogs. Yet if a team is like a big underdog all the time and they win half the time, you're making a lot of money betting this team. And it's the same thing with Neil Magny. So Neil Magny's 5-5 in his last 10 fights, but in 8 of the 10 fights, he was an underdog at plus 165 or higher. And we're talking like, you know, plus 280s, plus 350s, plus 260, plus 190. Like, there's always like this big fat price next to his name. And 5 out of the 10 times, he's cashed. And the 2 times he was a favorite, he was like a small favorite, minus 125, minus 138. And he won for the record, right? So Neil Magny is just a super underrated fighter. I think he's a live dog. We're going to be betting him, but we'd really like the fight to go the distance. The fight will go the distance. Neither Magny or Matthews are going to stop each other. And in the main event, man, you got Reyes. You got Reyes, could be a very live dog in this fight. Yeah, you know, with Oberg's, he's lived up to the hype, but another, like I said, I think we got some live dogs on this card. So follow me on X, and I'll have my final picks. Can't wait for the UFC card in Vancouver. Shout out to all of our guests. Thanks to our crew for putting it all together. Other than that, you're on your own. Later.